This Saturday is not the day you become someone else. It is the day the person you have been becoming in silence begins to rise, where even you can no longer ignore it. That is why the old life has felt tighter. That is why certain voices feel heavier. That is why your patience for confusion, disrespect, delay, and self-betrayal has been quietly disappearing. You did not arrive at this threshold by accident. Something greater has been guiding the pressure, the endings, the dreams, the fatigue, and the strange inner knowing that keeps whispering, you cannot stay the same. This is who you will become. Clearer without becoming cold, stronger without becoming hard, quieter without becoming invisible, more loving without abandoning yourself, more spiritual without losing your groundedness. Saturday will mark the beginning, but the formation started long before Saturday. It started in the nights you survived without applause. It started when you chose peace over reaction. It started when the old version of you kept breaking, not because you were weak, but because it was never meant to carry the future. Stay with this message, because before this threshold opens fully, you need to understand what is ending, what is beginning, what version of you is rising, what must not follow you into the new season, and why the signs you have been feeling in your body, your emotions, your relationships, and your spirit are not random. By the end, you will know how to recognize the new you, how to stop dragging the old identity into the new door, and how to step into Saturday with peace instead of panic. Because this is not just about a day, it is about a doorway, and not every version of you can pass through it. There is a strange feeling that comes before a real change. It is not always excitement. Sometimes it feels like restlessness. Sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels like you are tired of a life that, from the outside, may still look normal. People around you may not see anything changing, but inside you, something is shifting its weight. You may have noticed it in small ways. The conversations that once kept you entertained now leave you drained. The rooms you used to tolerate now feel too loud for your spirit. The habits that once comforted you now feel like chains wearing the costume of comfort. The version of you that used to say yes just to avoid disappointment now hesitates. The version of you that used to explain, defend, chase, prove, and overextend is beginning to go silent. And that silence is not emptiness. It is the sound of your identity changing. You are not losing your personality. You are not becoming difficult. You are not suddenly too sensitive, too distant, or too serious. What is happening is deeper than mood. Something inside you has started recognizing the difference between what formed you and what is meant to carry you forward. There is a difference between what helped you survive and what is allowed to lead you now. For a long time, you may have needed certain patterns just to get through life. You may have needed to be agreeable because disagreement felt unsafe. You may have needed to stay quiet because being honest once cost you too much. You may have needed to handle everything alone because, depending on people, taught you pain. You may have needed to smile when you were breaking because nobody around you knew how to hold the truth of your heaviness. And I want you to hear this clearly. Do not hate the old version of you. Do not look back at the version who begged for love, who stayed too long, who gave too much, who trusted the wrong people, who tolerated the bare minimum, who kept going back to situations that wounded them, and call that version foolish. That version was trying to keep you alive. That version did not have all the wisdom you have now. That version did not have all the language you have now. That version did not have the clarity, the boundaries, the discernment, or the strength that is rising in you now. That version was working with the tools available at the time. And even if those tools were imperfect, they carried you to this moment. So before you cross into what Saturday is marking, there is a quiet honor that must happen inside you. You do not need to stand anywhere. You do not need to perform anything. Just let your spirit picture the old version of you standing at the edge of the season you have just survived. See that version tired, maybe confused, maybe carrying bags that were never meant to be carried this long. And instead of judging them, let your inner voice say, "Thank you for getting me here. You protected me, when you did not know another way. You endured what you did not yet know how to leave. You kept breathing when hope felt far away. But now, you can rest. I will take it from here. That is not weakness. That is transition. Because one of the most sacred things you will ever do is stop punishing the version of yourself that only existed because life demanded survival from you before it taught you peace. This is why the old life has been feeling tight. Not because everything in it is evil. Not because every person around you is against you. Not because you made some terrible mistake and now everything is falling apart. Sometimes the old life feels tight because you have grown beyond the shape it was built for. A seed does not hate the ground when it begins to rise. A child does not hate the womb when it is time to be born. A butterfly does not hate the cocoon when the wings begin to press against the walls. But there comes a moment when what once protected you begins to restrict you. There comes a moment when the very place that gave you cover begins to feel like a cage. There comes a moment when staying where you were formed becomes more painful than stepping into where you are called. That is the kind of moment this Saturday is marking. Not the end of your entire process, but the beginning of your agreement with the new one. The old you survived by adapting. The new you will live by aligning. The old you survived by reading the room. The new you will live by carrying peace into the room. The old you survived by shrinking before people could reject you. The new you will live by standing in truth without needing everyone to clap. You went through seasons where you had to be strong in a way that no one saw. You had to carry private battles while still showing up. You had to process disappointment quietly because explaining it would have made you feel even more alone. You had to smile at people who had no idea how much strength it took for you to remain gentle. And if you are honest, there were moments when you wondered if any of it had a purpose. You wondered why the delay lasted so long. You wondered why certain doors closed right when you thought they were opening. You wondered why people who should have recognized your heart misunderstood you instead. You wondered why you kept being hidden when something inside you felt called to more. But chosen one, the delay was not empty. The hidden season was not wasted. The silence was not proof that nothing was happening. There are things that can only be formed when nobody is watching. There is a kind of discernment that only develops after you have trusted the wrong voice and learned the cost of ignoring your inner knowing. There is a kind of peace that only becomes real after chaos has tried to make a home inside your nervous system and you finally decide it can no longer live there. There is a kind of strength that only rises after you stop needing everyone to understand what you survived. The wilderness was not just a place of waiting, it was a place of stripping. It stripped away the need to be chosen by people who could not even see you clearly. It stripped away the addiction to explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. It stripped away the belief that being loved means being constantly available. It stripped away the fantasy that every closed door is punishment. It stripped away the old agreement that said you must abandon yourself to keep a connection alive. And yes, stripping hurts. It can feel like loss before it feels like freedom. It can feel like rejection before it feels like redirection. It can feel like loneliness before it becomes sacred separation. But what you called a delay may have been the only thing that kept the old version of you from entering a door they were not ready to carry. Because if certain blessings had arrived earlier, they may have overwhelmed you. If certain opportunities had opened earlier, you may have entered them with old fear, old insecurity, old desperation, old hunger for validation. If certain people had stayed, you may have kept performing a version of yourself that was easier for them to accept, but harder for your soul to live inside. So something greater did not just prepare the blessing, it prepared you. And this is the part most people miss. They think the blessing is the point. They think the new opportunity is the point. They think the relationship, the money, the recognition, the open door, the sudden answer, or the visible change is the point. But the real point is who you become before those things arrive. Because if your identity does not change, you can receive a new door and still carry an old prison into it. You can receive a new relationship and still bring old fear into it. You can receive a new opportunity and still sabotage it, because deep down, you are still loyal to the story that says good things do not stay. You can receive a new beginning and still keep living like someone waiting for disappointment. That is why this message matters. Saturday is not only about what may open around you, it is about what must stabilize within you. The new you cannot be built on panic. The new you cannot be built on shame. The new you cannot be built on the constant need to be validated by people who benefit from your confusion. The new you cannot be built while you keep rehearsing the pain of who left, who doubted you, who ignored you, who underestimated you, who did not come back, who did not apologize, and who did not recognize your value when they had access to your heart. There comes a moment when even your pain has to lose permission to keep narrating your future. That does not mean you pretend it did not hurt. It means you stop letting what hurt you become the only language your identity speaks. Think about Joseph, not as a distant story, but as a pattern. The pit did not look like preparation. The prison did not look like promotion. The silence did not look like destiny. From the outside, it looked like delay after delay, loss after loss, misunderstanding after misunderstanding. But hidden does not mean forgotten. Delayed does not mean denied. Buried does not mean dead. There are seasons where the place that looks like a setback is actually shaping the part of you that the next level will require. Joseph could not carry the palace with the mindset of the pit. He had to be formed in the hidden places. He had to learn how to interpret without being praised. He had to learn how to serve without being seen. He had to learn how to remain steady when life gave him every reason to become bitter. His elevation was not just about position, it was about capacity. And chosen one, that is what has been happening to you. You have been gaining capacity. Capacity to stay calm when old triggers try to pull you back. Capacity to walk away without needing revenge. Capacity to hear guidance without needing constant confirmation. Capacity to be misunderstood without rushing to manage every opinion. Capacity to receive more without worshipping the more. Capacity to be visible without becoming addicted to attention. Capacity to love without losing yourself. Capacity to lead without pretending you are never afraid. That is the new you beginning to rise. Not loud, not desperate, not frantic, not begging life to prove your worth. Steady, clear, rooted, different. And some people may not like this version at first, because this version will not be as easy to access. This version will not keep saying yes when the truth is no. This version will not keep shrinking to make others comfortable. This version will not keep returning to the same conversations, hoping they will finally produce a different level of respect. This version will not confuse being needed with being loved, but do not mistake their discomfort for your wrongdoing. When you stop playing the role people assign to you, the people who benefited from that role may call your growth distance. They may call your peace pride. They may call your boundaries coldness. They may call your silence attitude. But not every accusation deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding requires a defense. Not every person who had access to the old you is assigned to understand the new one. This Saturday marks the beginning of a shift in agreement. You are no longer agreeing with the belief that you must be exhausted to be valuable. You are no longer agreeing with the belief that love should cost you your peace. You are no longer agreeing with the belief that being chosen means being available to everyone. You are no longer agreeing with the belief that your past has more authority than your calling. And the moment your agreement changes, your life begins to reorganize. At first, it may be subtle. A conversation you do not enter. A message you do not send. An urge you do not obey. A familiar fear you notice but do not follow. A small decision that looks ordinary from the outside but feels like a throne inside your spirit, because for the first time you chose from the new self instead of the wounded self. That is how beginnings often look. Not fireworks, agreement. Not applause, alignment. not noise. A quiet yes to what is true. So if you have been feeling heavy, do not immediately assume something is wrong. If you have been feeling detached from old things, do not immediately assume you are becoming cold. If you have been craving silence, do not immediately assume you are isolating in a harmful way. If you have been feeling waves of emotion, do not immediately assume you are unstable. If you have been feeling a strange pull toward a different life, there is a difference between escaping your life and being called higher. There is a difference between avoiding responsibility and outgrowing a false identity. There is a difference between loneliness and sacred separation. There is a difference between confusion and transition. And this is why you must listen closely to what is happening inside you right now. Because before the new you becomes visible to others, it will first become undeniable to you. You will start noticing what drains you faster. You will start noticing what gives you peace without needing to impress you. You will start noticing which people respect your growth and which people only respect your availability. You will start noticing which dreams still carry life and which ambitions were only borrowed from a version of you that wanted approval. You will start noticing that some doors are not closed because you are rejected. They are closed because they are too small for the person you are becoming. And that realization can feel both beautiful and frightening, because when you begin to see clearly, you also begin to lose excuses. You can no longer pretend you do not know what harms your peace. You can no longer pretend certain habits are harmless. You can no longer pretend every delay is random. You can no longer pretend the old version of your life still fits simply because it is familiar. This is the sacred tension of becoming. Part of you wants the new, part of you grieves the old, part of you is ready, part of you is afraid, part of you can feel the door. Part of you wants to run back to the room you already know, even if that room was suffocating. Do not shame that tension. A threshold always creates tension. The moment before birth is pressure. The moment before breakthrough is resistance. The moment before release is often the moment when the old grip becomes most intense. Not because you are failing, but because something in you knows the old arrangement is losing authority. And that is why this Saturday matters. It gives your spirit a marker, a line, a moment to recognize what has already been happening. It does not mean you need to force life to change overnight. It does not mean you should make reckless decisions. It does not mean you should turn every feeling into a prophecy. It means you are being invited to become conscious of the shift, to cooperate with it, to stop fighting the evidence of your own growth. The beginning of a new you is not always dramatic. Sometimes it begins when you stop apologizing for needing peace. Sometimes it begins when you stop chasing closure from people who only know how to reopen wounds. Sometimes it begins when you stop asking old environments to bless a version of you they were never built to hold. Sometimes it begins when you stop waiting for confidence and choose obedience with a trembling voice. Sometimes it begins when you realize that the person you were trying to become has actually been trying to emerge through you for years. This is not about becoming perfect. This is about becoming honest. Honest about what hurts. Honest about what drains you. Honest about what you keep returning to out of fear. Honest about what you are being called toward. Honest about the fact that survival got you here, but survival cannot be the highest expression of your life. You were not born only to endure. You were not born only to recover. You were not born only to be the strong one in rooms where nobody asks who strengthens you. You were not born only to be the understanding one, the available one, the forgiving one, the one who keeps adjusting while everyone else stays the same. There is a version of you that knows how to receive. There is a version of you that knows how to rest without guilt. There is a version of you that knows how to choose peace without explaining it like a crime. There is a version of you that knows how to walk into purpose without dragging every old fear behind. And that version is not far away. That version has been forming every time you chose not to become bitter, every time you sat with the truth instead of running from it, every time you let a false connection fall away, every time you remained gentle without staying naive, every time you learned the difference between love and access, every time you chose growth, even when it made you feel alone. Now the question is not whether the new you exists. The question is whether you will agree with it. Will you agree with the peace that is trying to enter your life, even if chaos feels more familiar? Will you agree with the boundary that protects your spirit, even if guilt tries to call it selfish? Will you agree with the calling that keeps returning, even if fear tells you to wait until you feel more ready? Will you agree with the quiet confidence rising in you, even if people who knew your brokenness struggle to recognize your healing? Because Saturday is a beginning, but agreement is the key. And as this message continues, you are going to understand the signs that have already been showing up. The changed tolerance, the emotional waves, the vivid dreams, the sudden desire to clean, simplify, withdraw, reset, and listen. The exhaustion that is not just physical, the inner knowing that keeps telling you the old way cannot continue. These signs are not random. They are the language of transition. They are the first movements of the new you pressing against the old shell. And once you understand them, you will stop fearing what is happening inside you. You will stop calling your growth a breakdown. You will stop calling your discernment distance. You will stop calling your need for peace weakness. You will begin to see that the very things you thought were signs of confusion may actually be signs that your spirit has already received the invitation. So take this with you into the next part of the message. The old self was not your enemy. The old self was your formation. But the version that protected you in the wilderness cannot be the same version that leads you through the door. Something is shifting. Something is ending. Something is beginning. And this Saturday, the first visible crack in the old shell may appear, not around you first, but within you. Listen closely now, because the signs have already started speaking. The signs have been speaking through what you can no longer tolerate, through what suddenly feels heavy, through the quiet spaces you now crave, through the dreams that feel too vivid to dismiss, and through the strange exhaustion that does not seem to come only from your body. Chosen one, the first thing you need to understand is this. When a new version of you begins forming, life does not always announce it with a miracle. Sometimes it announces it through discomfort. Sometimes it announces it through a loss of appetite for the things that once fed the old self. Sometimes it announces it through a deep inner resistance to patterns you used to accept without question. And this is why you must stop calling every uncomfortable feeling a problem. Some discomfort is not there to punish you. Some discomfort is there to wake you. Some discomfort is there because your spirit has started recognizing what your mind kept trying to excuse. The first sign is that your tolerance has changed. You may have noticed this already. Certain conversations do not feel the same anymore. They do not simply bore you. They drain something deeper. You can feel it after you leave the room. You can feel it after the phone call ends. You can feel it after you read the message and realize your body responded before your mouth did. The old you may have answered immediately. The old you may have softened the truth. The old you may have laughed at something that did not feel funny just to keep the peace. The old you may have made yourself smaller so the room would not become uncomfortable. But now, something in you pauses. Not because you hate people. Not because you have become cold. Not because you think you are better than anyone. Something in you pauses because your spirit is no longer willing to pay the same price for false peace. That is a powerful sign. When your tolerance changes, it means your inner standard is changing. It means the new you is beginning to recognize what drains your clarity, what weakens your peace, what pulls you backward, what keeps you performing a version of yourself that no longer feels honest. And this can feel confusing at first, because some of the things that drain you now may be things you used to call normal. Some of the people who feel heavy now may be people you once tried very hard to stay close to. Some of the places that feel suffocating now may be places where you once felt safe because they were familiar. That is the strange thing about becoming. Sometimes what once felt safe only felt safe because it was predictable. And predictable is not the same as peaceful. You can know how to survive a room and still not belong in that room anymore. You can know how to manage a connection and still not be called to carry it into your next season. You can know how to perform the old version of yourself and still feel your spirit whispering, "This is not who you are anymore." Chosen one. This is where you must be careful. Do not take your change tolerance and turn it into pride. Do not use discernment as an excuse to despise people. Do not call every person toxic because your energy is shifting. Not everyone who feels heavy is evil. Not every uncomfortable relationship is an enemy. Not every draining conversation means someone is against you. But also, do not betray what your spirit is showing you. There is a middle place between judgment and denial. That middle place is called discernment. Discernment does not need to scream. Discernment observes. Discernment listens. Discernment watches what happens to your peace when certain patterns repeat. Discernment notices who respects your no, who uses guilt to pull you back, who only celebrates the version of you that stays convenient, and who becomes uncomfortable when you begin choosing your own healing. This is why your changed tolerance matters. It is not just an emotional mood. It is a signal that the new you is developing a cleaner relationship with peace. You are becoming someone who can love without losing yourself. You are becoming someone who can forgive without reopening every door. You are becoming someone who can be kind without being endlessly available. You are becoming someone who can honor the past without staying loyal to a pattern that keeps injuring your future. And the moment this begins, guilt may rise. You may ask yourself, am I being selfish? Am I changing too much? Am I becoming distant? Am I abandoning people? Am I wrong for needing more silence, more space, more honesty, more peace? That guilt is not proof you are wrong. Sometimes guilt rises because the old identity is losing control. The part of you that survived by pleasing people will panic when you start protecting your peace. The part of you that survived by explaining yourself will panic when you choose silence. The part of you that survived by being useful will panic when you stop measuring your worth by how much access people have to you. So when guilt rises, do not automatically obey it. In your mind, picture that guilt as an old voice standing at the door of a new room. It is not evil. It is afraid. It has protected you for a long time by keeping you acceptable, available, and easy to understand. But now, without fighting it, let your inner self say, I hear you, but you are not leading this season. Peace is allowed to lead now. That is a mental action you can take without moving your body. You do not need to argue with the guilt. You do not need to prove anything to it. You simply remove the crown from the voice that kept you small and give authority back to peace. The second sign is that emotional waves have been moving through you without a clear trigger. You may be fine one moment, then suddenly heavy the next. You may feel tears rise without understanding why. You may feel a strange sadness when nothing bad just happened. You may feel hope and grief living in the same room inside you. You may feel peace for a few hours, then a memory comes back and your whole inner world shifts. This does not mean you are unstable. It may mean something old is finally leaving. Not every tear is a breakdown. Some tears are a release. Some tears are the body letting go of grief your mind had no more language for. Some tears are the spirit washing old agreements out of places you did not even know were still carrying them. For a long time, you may have kept moving because stopping felt dangerous. You may have stayed busy because silence brought up too much. You may have told yourself you were fine because you did not have time to feel everything. You may have become skilled at functioning while hurting, but the new you cannot be built on emotions you keep burying. So sometimes, before a new season opens, the old grief rises to be released. Not to destroy you, not to pull you backward, not to prove that you have made no progress. It rises because your spirit finally feels safe enough to let it pass through. That is why these emotional waves can feel so unexpected. They are not always connected to the present moment. Sometimes they are connected to a version of you from years ago who never got to grieve. Sometimes they are connected to disappointment you minimized because you had to keep going. Sometimes they are connected to words that were never spoken, apologies that never came, endings you never got to understand, love you gave that was not handled with care. And now, as Saturday approaches, your inner world may be making room, because the new you needs space. Not just physical space, emotional space, spiritual space, mental space, space where old pain is no longer sitting in the seat meant for purpose. Space where old fear is no longer interpreting every new opportunity. Space where old rejection is no longer deciding how much love you are allowed to receive. So if you feel waves, do not shame yourself. Do not rush to label everything. Do not turn every emotion into a command. An emotion can be real without being the ruler. A feeling can be important without being the final authority. You can honor what rises without building your entire future around it. When the wave comes, imagine it as water passing through a narrow place inside you. Do not chase it. Do not wrestle it. Do not make it your identity. Let it move. Let your inner voice say, "This is passing through me, but it is not defining me. This is leaving me, not becoming me. This is old weight, finding the exit." That is how the new you learns emotional wisdom. The old you may have reacted to every wave. The new you learns to witness the wave. The old you may have built stories around every feeling. The new you learns to ask, what is this revealing and what is this releasing? The old you may have feared sadness because sadness felt like weakness. The new you understands that release is not weakness. Release is evidence that the room is being cleared. The third sign is that your inner world has become louder than usual. Dreams may feel more vivid. Certain numbers may keep appearing. A phrase may follow you through the day. A song may come at the exact moment you are thinking about a decision. A memory may rise suddenly, not to torment you, but to show you what still needs peace. A conversation you overhear may answer a question you never said out loud. And when these things happen again and again, you may wonder, am I imagining this? Am I reading too much into everything? Is this guidance, or is this just coincidence? Chosen one. That question itself is part of your discernment. A grounded spirit does not need to turn every small thing into a dramatic sign, but a sleeping spirit ignores everything until life becomes painful enough to force attention. The new you is learning the difference. You are learning to notice without becoming obsessive. You are learning to listen without becoming frantic. You are learning to receive guidance without needing to control how it comes. You are learning that the divine can speak through peace, timing, repetition, wisdom, interruption, delay, and even through the quiet discomfort that tells you, not this way anymore. Some dreams are simply your mind processing what you have carried. Some dreams are mirrors. Some dreams are warnings. Some dreams are invitations. Some dreams are memories wearing symbols, so your spirit can finally understand what your mind avoided. That does not mean you must act on every dream. It means you pay attention to the patterns. You ask what kind of fruit the message produces. Does it bring grounded clarity, or does it produce panic? Does it lead you toward truth, or does it feed obsession? Does it align with peace, wisdom, and integrity, or does it pull you into fear, control, and confusion? Because true guidance may be strong, but it does not need to make you frantic. It can correct you without crushing you. It can warn you without tormenting you. It can redirect you without humiliating you. It can invite you without forcing you. This is important because as Saturday approaches, you may feel more sensitive. And sensitivity without grounding can become anxiety. But sensitivity with discernment becomes wisdom. You are not being asked to chase signs. You are being invited to become the kind of person who can hear clearly without needing everything to be loud. The old you may have needed dramatic confirmation because self-trust was wounded. The new you is learning to recognize the quiet weight of truth. The old you may have begged for signs because fear wanted control. The new you listens, tests, waits, and moves when peace and wisdom align. So when a sign appears, do not immediately run to the loudest interpretation. Let your spirit hold it gently. Let it pass through 3 inner questions. Does this bring me closer to peace? Does this bring me closer to truth? Does this bring me closer to the person I am becoming? If the answer is yes, keep listening. If the answer is no, release the noise. Because not everything that gets your attention deserves your agreement. The 4th sign is that you may suddenly feel a desire to simplify your life. This one can appear in very ordinary ways. You may want to clean your space. You may want to remove old clothes, old photos, old messages, old files, old reminders. You may want to unfollow certain voices. You may want fewer distractions. You may want to change the way your mornings feel. You may want to sit in silence more. You may want to eat differently, move differently, speak differently, spend differently, choose differently. At first, this can seem random, but it may not be random. Sometimes your environment starts feeling crowded because your identity is asking for room. The new you cannot breathe inside a life filled with old noise. The new you cannot think clearly when every corner of your inner world is occupied by unfinished pain, unnecessary access, and habits that keep pulling your attention back to who you used to be. This does not mean you need to make sudden, extreme changes. It means you pay attention to the desire for order. There is a reason so many people feel the urge to clear space before a major shift. The physical world and the inner world often speak to each other. When your spirit is preparing to step into something new, it may first begin by showing you what feels too heavy to carry. That old message thread may feel heavy. That habit may feel heavy. That routine may feel heavy. That music may feel heavy. That room may feel heavy. That version of your schedule may feel heavy. That connection may feel heavy. That old dream, the one you wanted because you were trying to prove your worth, may feel heavy too. And this is where you must be honest. Some things do not leave because they are evil. Some things leave because their assignment is complete. Some things do not need to be destroyed. They need to be released. Some doors do not need to be cursed. They need to be closed with maturity. Some versions of you do not need to be hated. They need to be thanked and retired. The desire to simplify is not only about having less. It is about making room for what is true. It is about removing the static so you can hear the signal. It is about letting your life become less crowded with what weakens you and more available to what strengthens you. And if you cannot physically change anything right now, you can still do something inwardly. Imagine the inside of your life as a room. In that room, every old fear, old obligation, old attachment, old distraction, and old expectation is taking up space. Now imagine a quiet light entering the room, not violently, not dramatically, just steadily. Let that light point to one thing that no longer belongs in the new season. You do not need to touch it with your hands. Just see it. Name it inside. Then imagine moving it from the center of the room to the doorway. That is the beginning. Before release happens outside, it often happens inside. Before the habit changes, agreement changes. Before the boundary is spoken, identity shifts. Before the door closes, your spirit stops calling the cage a home. The 5th sign is exhaustion that feels deeper than normal tiredness. This is the kind of fatigue that can feel confusing, because you may not be doing more than usual. You may sleep and still feel heavy. You may rest and still feel like something in you is processing. You may feel tired of noise, tired of explaining, tired of hoping, tired of being strong, tired of carrying versions of yourself that no longer fit. And because the world often only respects visible labor, you may judge yourself for this. You may think, why am I so tired? Why do I need so much quiet? Why am I less interested in things that used to distract me? Why do I feel like I am between who I was and who I am becoming? Chosen one. Transformation uses energy. Even when you are sitting still, becoming can be heavy. Even when nothing looks different on the outside, your inner world may be rearranging entire systems of belief, attachment, fear, memory, and desire. Your spirit may be releasing old agreements. Your mind may be questioning old stories. Your body may be carrying the residue of years where you had to stay alert, prepared, guarded, and strong. This is why you should not always interpret fatigue as failure. Sometimes, fatigue is a message asking you to stop feeding what is already ending. Sometimes fatigue is the cost of carrying what you were meant to release. Sometimes fatigue is your body saying, "I cannot keep performing the old life while the new one is trying to form." Of course, wisdom matters. Care for your body. Rest when you can. Drink water when you can. Seek support when you need it. Do not spiritualize everything in a way that ignores practical care. A grounded path honors both the soul and the body. But also, do not ignore the spiritual meaning of deep tiredness. There is a tiredness that comes from doing too much, and there is a tiredness that comes from being someone you are no longer called to be. That second tiredness is sacred information. It tells you where the mask has become too heavy. It tells you where the performance has become too expensive. It tells you where the old assignment has expired. It tells you where your energy is leaking into places that do not honor what is being built in you. And sometimes, the deepest quiet comes right before a new sound enters your life. You may feel pulled away from noise because your spirit is trying to hear something more precise. You may feel less interested in constant conversation because your inner voice is strengthening. You may feel less available to distraction because the new you needs focus. This is where the path becomes interesting, because there is a spiritual side to becoming, but there may also be a hidden inner mechanism that most people never think about. The way your focus changes, the way your intuition sharpens, the way mental fog lifts or thickens, the way your mind either supports the new identity or keeps pulling you back into survival. Later in this message, I want to talk to you about something connected to that, something about the brain, inner frequency, and what some researchers describe as a kind of switch connected to clarity, intuition, and the state where your mind becomes more available to what you were created to carry. Because what if part of the new you is not only spiritual desire, but also a deeper recalibration of the way your mind receives, processes, and responds? Hold that thought. For now, understand this. The fatigue you feel may not be proof that you are falling behind. It may be proof that the old system inside you is losing power. And when an old system loses power, there is often a strange silence before the new rhythm begins. So let us bring these signs together. Your tolerance is changing because your peace is becoming more valuable to you. Your emotions are moving because old weight is finding the exit. Your dreams and inner nudges are intensifying because your spirit is becoming more sensitive to guidance. Your desire to simplify is rising because the new you needs room. Your exhaustion is speaking because the old identity has become too heavy to keep performing. These are not random signs scattered across your life. They are connected. They are like separate instruments tuning before one song begins. And Saturday matters because it gives all of this a marker. It gives your spirit a moment to say, I see what has been happening. I will stop dismissing the evidence of my own transformation. I will stop calling my growth confusion. I will stop calling my clarity coldness. I will stop calling my rest laziness. I will stop calling my discernment distance. I will stop calling my new appetite for peace a problem. Something in you is preparing to cross. And maybe the most important thing right now is not to force the crossing. It is to stop fighting the preparation. You do not need to make your whole life change in one day. You do not need to call everyone and explain your transformation. You do not need to prove to anyone that Saturday is meaningful. You do not need to make a dramatic announcement. You do not need to turn a sacred beginning into a performance. The new you will not be established by noise. The new you will be established by agreement. Quiet agreement, steady agreement, honest agreement, Agreement with peace when chaos invites you back. Agreement with truth when old fear asks you to pretend. Agreement with your calling when comfort tries to make you stay small. Agreement with your future when your past asks for one more season of control. And this is why you must not be afraid of the subtle signs. The beginning may look small because roots always begin underground. A seed does not become a tree by shouting at the soil. It becomes a tree by obeying the hidden process. A butterfly does not leave the cocoon because someone outside tells it to hurry. It leaves when the pressure inside and the timing outside meet. That is where you are. The pressure inside you is meeting the timing around you. The discomfort inside you is meeting the doorway before you. The signs inside you are meeting the Saturday marker that your spirit has been sensing. And now the question becomes deeper. If these signs are real, where will the new you appear first? Because transformation does not remain invisible forever. At some point, what has changed inside you begins to reorganize what surrounds you. Your relationships begin to respond to your new boundaries. Your purpose begins to speak with more clarity. Your provision begins to align with the person you are becoming instead of the person you kept pretending to be. This is where the next layer begins. Because the new you will not only feel different, the new you will choose differently. The new you will attract differently. The new you will release differently. The new you will build differently. The new you will stop confusing chaos with connection, pressure with purpose, and survival with identity. And in the next movement of this message, you need to understand the 3 areas that will begin reorganizing first. Your relationships, your purpose, and your provision. Do not be afraid when these areas start shifting. Do not panic when certain people no longer feel aligned. Do not shrink when purpose asks for a more honest yes. Do not assume provision only means money, because sometimes the first provision is clarity, the second is courage, and the third is the right door opening at the right time. The signs have been speaking inside you. Now they are about to start speaking around you. And when that happens, you must know how to recognize what is leaving, what is arriving, and what is being rearranged for the version of you that can no longer live as if nothing has changed. What is leaving, what is arriving, and what is being rearranged for the version of you that can no longer live as if nothing has changed. Chosen one, when a new identity begins to rise inside you, it does not stay hidden forever. At first, it may feel like a private shift, a different appetite, a deeper silence, a changed tolerance, a new kind of tiredness, a strange sense that your life has become too small for the person forming within you. But eventually, what changes inside you begins to touch what surrounds you. Your relationships feel it. Your purpose feels it. Your provision feels it. Because identity is not isolated. The person you believe yourself to be will always influence what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you accept, what you reject, what you keep alive, what you release, and what you have the courage to receive. This is why the new you cannot rise without your life beginning to reorganize. Do not be surprised if, around this Saturday, certain things begin feeling different in these 3 areas. It may not happen with noise. It may not happen in one dramatic moment. It may not look like an instant miracle from the outside. But if you pay attention, you will begin to notice that the inner shift is creating outer movement. Something is leaving because it no longer fits. Something is arriving because you are finally ready to recognize it. Something is being rearranged because the old order was built around an old version of you. The first area where the new you may begin to appear is in your relationships. This does not always mean a dramatic ending. It does not always mean a confrontation. It does not always mean someone must become a villain for you to move forward. Sometimes relationship reorganization is quiet. Sometimes it begins when your desire to be understood becomes stronger than your fear of being alone. Sometimes it begins when you stop reaching for people who only meet you when you are useful. Sometimes it begins when you realize that access to your heart is sacred, and not everyone who knows your name is called to know your inner world. For a long time, you may have believed that love meant availability. You may have believed that if you really cared about someone, you had to answer every call, explain every boundary, soften every truth, absorb every mood, excuse every pattern, and keep proving that your heart was good. But the new you is learning something different. Love is not the same as unlimited access. Kindness is not the same as self-abandonment. Forgiveness is not the same as returning to the same place to be wounded again. Peace is not the same as silence when truth needs to be honored. And connection is not the same as captivity. This is why some relationships may begin to shift. Not because you are becoming cruel, but because you are becoming more honest. Not because you are rejecting everyone, but because you are no longer willing to reject yourself to keep everyone comfortable. Not because you are too spiritual to deal with people, but because your spirit is no longer willing to live in environments where your peace is constantly being taxed and your growth is constantly being questioned. Some people loved the version of you who did not know how to say no. Some people respected the version of you who made their comfort more important than your truth. Some people preferred the version of you who apologized for having needs, who over-explained every decision, who returned after every disrespect, who kept translating pain into patience because you did not want to seem difficult. But chosen one, this new you will not be easy to misuse. This new you will not keep turning your compassion into a doorway for repeated harm. This new you will not keep calling confusion chemistry. This new you will not keep calling emotional chaos passion. This new you will not keep calling one-sided effort loyalty. This new you will not keep calling fear of loneliness love, and that may disturb certain people. When you stop playing the role they expected, they may not know what to do with you. When you stop giving instant access, they may call you distant. When you stop explaining every move, they may call you secretive. When you stop rescuing people from the consequences of their own patterns, they may call you selfish. When you begin protecting your energy, they may accuse you of changing, and they may be right. You are changing, but not in the way they think. You are not changing into someone colder. You are changing into someone clearer. You are not changing into someone proud. You are changing into someone protected. You are not changing into someone who does not care. You are changing into someone who finally understands that care without boundaries becomes exhaustion. This Saturday may mark the beginning of that realization becoming visible. Maybe the first sign in your relationships will be a conversation you no longer feel pulled to continue. Maybe it will be a message you no longer feel anxious to answer. Maybe it will be the quiet awareness that you have been keeping a connection alive only because you are afraid of the grief that would come if you let it become what it truly is. Maybe it will be a sudden peace about someone leaving. Maybe it will be a new connection that feels calm, respectful, and easy in a way your nervous system is not used to trusting. Do not panic when this happens. A relationship can be meaningful and still not be assigned to your next season. A person can have played an important role and still not be able to walk through the next door with you. A connection can have real history and still not have future alignment. And this is where maturity is required. Because the old you may want to explain everything. The old you may want to make everyone comfortable with your growth. The old you may want to ask for permission to become different. The old you may want to prove that your boundary is reasonable, that your silence is not punishment, that your peace is not pride. But the new you must learn the discipline of not over-explaining sacred changes to people who are committed to misunderstanding anything that removes their control over you. This does not mean you become harsh. It means you become steady. It means your yes becomes cleaner. It means your no becomes calmer. It means your presence becomes more intentional. It means you stop confusing being needed with being valued. It means you begin to recognize the difference between people who love your soul and people who love your usefulness. There will be relationships that cannot survive the new you because they were built on the old you abandoning yourself. Let them reveal that. Let them show you what they were really connected to. Let them show you whether they loved your spirit or only the benefits of your wounded patterns. And there will be relationships that surprise you in a beautiful way. People who give you room to grow. People who do not punish your peace. People who can hear your no without turning it into war. People who do not need you broken to feel important. People who recognize the new language your life is learning to speak. People who meet your clarity with respect instead of resistance. When those people appear, do not reject calm just because chaos was familiar. Do not distrust healthy connection simply because unhealthy connection trained your body to expect pain. Do not make new people pay for old wounds. Let your discernment stay awake, but let your heart stay alive. Because the new you is not being called into isolation as an identity. You may need separation for a season, but separation is not the final destination. The purpose of sacred separation is not to make you afraid of people. It is to teach you the difference between access and alignment. It is to cleanse your relational field so that what enters next does not have to compete with old confusion. So when relationships begin shifting, do not only ask, who is leaving? Ask, what pattern is leaving? Is the pattern of overgiving leaving? Is the pattern of chasing unavailable people leaving? Is the pattern of explaining yourself to those who do not want clarity leaving? Is the pattern of shrinking your needs to keep peace leaving? Is the pattern of calling anxiety love leaving? That is the deeper change. Sometimes the person leaving is only the visible sign of a pattern losing authority. And once that pattern loses authority, your life becomes available for a new kind of connection. The second area where the new you may begin to appear is in your purpose. Purpose is not always loud at first. Sometimes purpose begins as a burden you cannot shake. Sometimes it begins as a repeated idea. Sometimes it begins as a quiet grief over wasted potential. Sometimes it begins as frustration because you know you were born for more, but you are tired of saying that without knowing what the next step is. And this is where many chosen ones get stuck. They wait for purpose to arrive as a perfect map. They wait for confidence to arrive before obedience. They wait for everyone to understand before they begin. They wait for fear to disappear before they take the first honest step. But purpose rarely begins with the whole staircase visible. More often, it begins with one step that keeps returning to your spirit until ignoring it becomes more exhausting than obeying it. You may already know what this feels like. There is something you keep thinking about, something you keep being drawn toward, something that makes you feel both alive and afraid, something that does not leave even when you try to distract yourself. Something that may not make sense to everyone around you, but it keeps touching a place inside you that ordinary ambition cannot reach. That is important, because there is a difference between ambition and calling. Ambition often asks, how can I be seen? Calling asks, what am I here to serve? Ambition asks, how can I prove I am enough? Calling asks, what truth has been placed inside me that must be lived, built, spoken, healed, created, or carried? Ambition can be fueled by insecurity. Calling requires surrender. Ambition can chase rooms. Calling can create rooms. Ambition can burn you out trying to become impressive. Calling forms you into someone useful, truthful, steady, and aligned. This does not mean ambition is always wrong. Desire can be sacred. Excellence can be sacred. Growth can be sacred. Increase can be sacred. But when ambition is disconnected from calling, it can turn your life into a performance. It can make you chase a version of success that looks good outside but feels hollow inside. That is why the new you may begin losing interest in goals that once excited you. This can be confusing. You may wonder, why do I not want what I used to want? Why does this dream feel smaller now? Why does that plan no longer carry life? Why do I feel drawn to something deeper, quieter, more meaningful, even if it is less impressive to people? Because purpose is becoming clearer. The new you is not only asking, what can I achieve? The new you is asking, what am I assigned to become? This is where you may feel tension, because the old you may have built dreams from pain. The old you may have wanted success to prove people wrong. The old you may have wanted visibility to heal rejection. The old you may have wanted money to feel safe. The old you may have wanted love to prove you were not abandoned. The old you may have wanted applause to cover insecurity. But the new you is different. The new you can still want success, but not from revenge. The new you can still want visibility, but not from emptiness. The new you can still want provision, but not from panic. The new you can still want love, but not from desperation. The new you can still want impact, but not because being unknown feels like being worthless. This is a holy shift, because when purpose becomes purified, you stop chasing everything that shines. You stop saying yes to every open door. You stop mistaking movement for alignment. You stop assuming that pressure means urgency. You stop building a life around proving that the people who underestimated you were wrong. You begin building because something true inside you has been entrusted to you. Maybe you are called to speak. Maybe you are called to build. Maybe you are called to teach. Maybe you are called to create. Maybe you are called to heal. Maybe you are called to lead. Maybe you are called to organize, protect, restore, write, guide, design, serve, raise, mentor, pray, or bring beauty into places that have forgotten what beauty feels like. But whatever the form is, the deeper call is this: become the kind of person who can carry the assignment without letting the assignment replace your soul. Because sometimes the old you wanted purpose to rescue you from pain, but the new you understands that purpose is not an escape from formation. Purpose is the fruit of formation. This is why Saturday may not bring a full map. It may bring a clearer yes. It may bring one next step. It may bring one conversation. It may bring one idea that will not leave. It may bring one door that feels small but carries weight. It may bring the courage to stop delaying what you already know is aligned. It may bring the honesty to admit that the life you keep maintaining is not the same as the life you are called to build. Do not despise the smallness of the first step. A seed does not look like a forest. A foundation does not look like a tower. A whisper does not look like a message that will one day move thousands. A private yes does not look like public impact. But every true assignment begins in a place where obedience is more important than applause. Think about David. He was anointed before he was enthroned. He carried something real before the world recognized it. He had a calling before he had a platform. He had oil on his head while still returning to fields where only sheep could see his faithfulness. That is a pattern many chosen ones must understand. Being chosen does not always mean being immediately seen. Being called does not always mean being instantly promoted. Being prepared does not always mean being publicly validated. There is often a gap between the moment identity is spoken and the moment identity is visible. That gap is not punishment. That gap is where character catches up to calling. That gap is where your roots go deeper than your reach. That gap is where your motives are purified, so that when the door opens, you do not worship the door more than the one who guided you to it. David did not become king the moment the oil touched him. And you may not see the full manifestation the moment Saturday marks the beginning. But the beginning is still real. The shift is still sacred. The identity is still forming. The assignment is still alive. Do not think nothing is happening just because the outside has not caught up yet. There are things being arranged beneath the surface that your eyes cannot yet measure. There are capacities being developed. There are motives being healed. There are fears being exposed. There are distractions being removed. There are relationships being tested. There are opportunities being prepared. There are internal agreements being rewritten. And purpose often becomes clearer when you stop asking, how do I become impressive? And start asking, where am I being asked to be faithful now? Faithful with the idea. Faithful with the gift. faithful with the small opening, faithful with the discipline, faithful with the voice, faithful with the healing, faithful with the truth you already know. The new you is not waiting for perfect conditions. The new you is learning to move with grounded obedience. The third area where the new you may begin to appear is in provision. And you must understand provision in a deeper way than most people do. Provision is not only money. Provision can be clarity. Provision can be timing. Provision can be the right person. Provision can be an opportunity. Provision can be a closed door that keeps you from wasting years in the wrong place. Provision can be energy returning to your body. Provision can be courage to apply, speak, build, leave, begin, or receive. Provision can be wisdom arriving before resources, because without wisdom, resources can be misused. This matters because many people only recognize provision when it looks like abundance. But sometimes, the first form of provision is direction. Sometimes, before life gives you more, it gives you the ability to recognize what is enough to begin. Sometimes, before money changes, your relationship with fear changes. Sometimes, before the door opens, the desperation that would have made you mishandle the door begins to loosen. Sometimes, before a new opportunity arrives, the old identity that would have begged for anything begins to die. Chosen one. This Saturday may mark the beginning of a new relationship with receiving. Not grabbing, not forcing, not begging, not panicking. Receiving. There is a difference. Grabbing comes from fear. Receiving comes from alignment. Forcing comes from distrust. Receiving comes from readiness. Begging comes from believing you are powerless. Receiving comes from understanding that you can act, prepare, discern, and still trust the timing of what is being arranged. If you have lived in survival for a long time, receiving can feel strange. You may be more comfortable fighting for scraps than resting in the possibility that something good can come without you destroying yourself for it. You may be more familiar with pressure than peace. You may know how to function in lack, but not how to breathe in enoughness. You may know how to pray from desperation, but not how to prepare from trust. That is why provision is connected to identity. If you still believe you are always overlooked, you may miss the opportunity that arrives quietly. If you still believe nothing works out for you, you may sabotage the door because your nervous system trusts disappointment more than favor. If you still believe you must suffer to deserve support, you may reject ease when it comes. If you still believe receiving makes you weak, you may keep carrying what was meant to be shared. The new you must learn a different posture. Not passive, not reckless, not entitled. Receptive, prepared, grounded, alert. There may be resources already around you that the old you could not recognize because the old you was too busy surviving. There may be people who want to help, but you are so trained by betrayal that you assume every hand has a hidden hook. There may be ideas that could create provision, but you have dismissed them because they came quietly. There may be doors opening slowly, but you keep calling them closed because they did not open in the way your fear demanded. This is why provision begins with clarity. Clarity helps you stop wasting energy. Clarity helps you stop investing in what is no longer assigned. Clarity helps you recognize the right door from the loud door. Clarity helps you wait without becoming passive and act without becoming frantic. Clarity helps you understand that not every delay is denial, not every offer is alignment, not every opportunity is provision, and not every closed door is loss. Sometimes, provision comes disguised as removal. The removal of confusion. The removal of a draining connection. The removal of a false responsibility. The removal of a plan that looked good but would have cost too much of your soul. The removal of an identity that kept you too small to receive what was trying to come. And when those removals happen, the old you may panic. Because the old you measures safety by what is familiar. But the new you must learn to measure safety by alignment. This is important for what is coming, because if provision begins to shift, you must not let panic make you reckless. Do not force a door because you are tired of waiting. Do not say yes to something only because it proves you are wanted. Do not confuse speed with favor. Do not make permanent decisions from temporary emotional hunger. Do not spend money to feel powerful if what you truly need is discipline. Do not chase an opportunity because it flatters your wounded ego. Provision that is aligned will not require you to abandon wisdom. A door can be exciting and still need discernment. An opportunity can be attractive and still not be assigned. A person can offer help and still need to be tested by time. An idea can feel inspired and still need structure. This is how the new you carries provision differently. The old you may have prayed for escape. The new you prepares for stewardship. The old you may have wanted anything that reduced pressure. The new you wants what aligns with purpose. The old you may have asked, how quickly can this change my life? The new you asks, can I carry this with peace, integrity, and maturity? That question alone will save you from many wrong doors. Because the purpose of provision is not only relief. Provision is support for assignment. Provision gives strength to build. Provision gives room to heal. Provision gives tools to serve. Provision gives stability to obey. Provision gives space for the new you to live without being constantly dragged back into survival. This is why your relationships, your purpose, and your provision are connected. Relationships affect your peace. Peace affects your clarity. Clarity affects your purpose. Purpose affects your decisions. Decisions affect your provision. Provision affects your ability to build. And what you build becomes the environment where the new you can either grow or shrink. So when one area shifts, do not assume it is isolated. If a relationship leaves, it may free the focus needed for purpose. If purpose becomes clearer, it may expose relationships that only supported your confusion. If provision begins to move, it may require boundaries, so old patterns do not consume what was meant for your future. If a door opens, it may reveal whether your identity has truly changed or whether the old fear is still trying to lead. Everything is connected, and this is where the message becomes deeper. Because many people think the new you means everything around you will immediately become easier, but that is not always true. Sometimes the new you makes life feel harder for a moment, because you can no longer survive by lying to yourself. You can no longer pretend the relationship is healthy when your peace keeps leaving. You can no longer pretend the dream is yours when your spirit feels empty every time you chase it. You can no longer pretend the opportunity is aligned when your body keeps warning you. You can no longer pretend you are waiting on divine timing when deep down you know you are avoiding the first step. You can no longer pretend you are being patient when you are really afraid to be seen. You can no longer pretend you are being loyal when you are really afraid to outgrow what once gave you identity. This is the moment where the new you becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a confrontation, not with the world first, with your own agreements. Because what truly changes after Saturday is not only what appears around you, it is what you stop agreeing with inside you. You stop agreeing with the story that you must be chosen by people who keep mishandling your presence. You stop agreeing with the story that purpose must look impressive before it is valid. You stop agreeing with the story that provision can only come through panic, pressure, and overwork. You stop agreeing with the story that if something is unfamiliar, it must be unsafe. You stop agreeing with the story that peace is boring because chaos taught your nervous system to confuse intensity with love. You stop agreeing with the story that your past has the authority to define what you can receive now. This is the real beginning. The new you begins when the old agreements lose your signature. And that can be uncomfortable, because old agreements do not leave quietly. They will try to speak in familiar voices. They will sound like caution, but often they are fear. They will sound like loyalty, but often they are attachment. They will sound like humility, but often they are shame. They will sound like wisdom, but often they are avoidance. They will sound like being realistic, but often they are the memory of disappointment pretending to be truth. That is why you must become very aware of what is happening inside you as these outer areas shift. When a relationship begins changing, ask yourself, am I responding from peace or from panic? When purpose begins calling, ask yourself, am I delaying because timing is not right, or because visibility frightens me? When provision begins moving, ask yourself, am I prepared to receive with maturity, or am I still trying to grab from fear? These questions are not meant to condemn you, they are meant to bring you back to yourself. Because the new you is not only about attracting new things. The new you is about becoming someone who can carry new things without becoming lost in them. This is why David had to wait. The oil was real, but the throne required formation. The calling was real, but the character had to deepen. The future was real, but the inner life had to become steady enough to hold it. If David had entered the throne too early, the throne may have exposed what the field was meant to heal. If he had been promoted before he was formed, the public weight may have crushed the private weakness. If he had mistaken anointing for arrival, he may have stopped growing at the very moment growth mattered most. Chosen one, do not make that mistake. Do not confuse the beginning with the completion. Do not confuse the sign with the destination. Do not confuse the feeling of change with the fruit of change. Saturday marks a beginning, but what you do with that beginning matters. Your relationships may begin to reorganize, but you must still choose boundaries with wisdom. Your purpose may begin to clarify, but you must still take the next step with discipline. Your provision may begin to align, but you must still steward what comes with maturity. This is how the new you becomes real in the earth. Not just by feeling different, by choosing differently, by responding differently, by waiting differently, by receiving differently, by releasing differently, by building differently. And there is a quiet mental action you can take right now, wherever you are, without moving your body. Imagine your life as 3 rooms connected by one hallway. In the first room are your relationships. In the second room is your purpose. In the third room is your provision. Do not try to fix anything. Just let your inner attention walk through each room. In the room of relationships, notice what feels heavy and what feels clean. In the room of purpose, notice what feels alive and what feels borrowed. In the room of provision, notice what feels peaceful and what feels forced. Now imagine a door at the end of the hallway with Saturday written across it. You do not need to open it yet. Just stand before it inwardly and let your spirit say, I will not drag what is heavy, borrowed, or forced into the new season. I will recognize what is leaving. I will welcome what is aligned. I will let what is being rearranged become evidence that I am no longer the same. That is the posture. Not panic. Recognition. Not control. Cooperation. Not performance. Agreement. Because this new you will not be sustained by emotional excitement alone. It will be sustained by the quiet decisions you make when old patterns invite you back. And this is where the next warning must be spoken with compassion. The greatest threat to the new you may not be an enemy outside you. It may not be a person trying to stop you. It may not be a closed door. It may not be a lack of opportunity. It may be the old identity trying to survive inside a new season. The old identity may try to pull you back into people-pleasing the moment a relationship changes. It may try to pull you back into procrastination the moment purpose calls. It may try to pull you back into panic the moment provision starts moving differently. It may try to convince you that peace is unsafe, that visibility is dangerous, that receiving is suspicious, that boundaries are selfish, that growth is betrayal, and that if people do not understand you, you must be doing something wrong. That is why you must not only recognize what is shifting, you must recognize what will try to block it. Because every threshold has a test, not to punish you, to reveal what still has authority. When the relationship shifts, will guilt lead you or will peace lead you? When the purpose calls, will fear lead you or will obedience lead you? When provision moves, will desperation lead you or will discernment lead you? When the new you rises, will the old agreement still get to decide how far you go? This is the part you must not avoid, because many people celebrate a new beginning but never confront the patterns that keep dragging them back to the old ending. They feel the shift, but they do not protect it. They receive clarity, but they do not obey it. They recognize a new door, but they carry the old fear through it. They say they want peace, but they keep feeding chaos. They say they want purpose, but they keep waiting for certainty. They say they want provision, but they keep making fear-based decisions that scatter their strength. Chosen one, that will not be your portion if you are willing to become honest. This Saturday can mark a real beginning, but the beginning must be guarded. Your peace must be guarded. Your clarity must be guarded. Your energy must be guarded. Your calling must be guarded. Your new agreement must be guarded. Not with paranoia, with wisdom, not with hardness, with discernment, not with isolation, with sacred selectivity. So do not be afraid when relationships begin to shift. Do not be afraid when purpose begins to call you out of hiding. Do not be afraid when provision begins to move in forms you did not expect. Do not be afraid when the old life feels too small. Do not be afraid when the familiar starts losing its comfort. Do not be afraid when your spirit begins saying, "I cannot go back." That sentence is not a threat. It is a sign of life. I cannot go back to abandoning myself. I cannot go back to calling anxiety love. I cannot go back to shrinking my purpose to fit someone else's comfort. I cannot go back to begging for what should be mutual. I cannot go back to confusing survival with identity. I cannot go back to treating my calling like a fantasy. I cannot go back to letting fear manage my future. This is the language of the new you, and as this language grows stronger, the next part of your journey becomes unavoidable. You must face what cannot cross the threshold. You must face the old attachments. You must face the guilt that rises when you outgrow people, places, habits, and versions of yourself. You must face the fear of being seen, the fear of succeeding, the fear that if life gets better, you will somehow lose yourself. You must face the urge to control, force, explain, chase, prove, and rush. Because the door may open, but not everything can enter. And before Saturday becomes a sacred beginning instead of just another date on the calendar, you need to understand the 4 patterns that will try to follow you into the new season. They are subtle, they are familiar, they can sound like wisdom, they can sound like loyalty, they can sound like humility, they can sound like caution, but if you let them lead, they will turn a doorway into another cycle. So listen closely as we go deeper. The relationships are shifting, the purpose is speaking, the provision is aligning. But now, the question is this: what must you refuse to carry through the door? Chosen one, this is where the message becomes very honest. Because the door may open, but not everything can enter. The season may shift, but not every mindset can survive the shift. Saturday may mark the beginning of a new you, but if the old patterns still have your agreement, you can step into a new moment and still recreate the same cycle. This is why a threshold is sacred. A threshold is not only a place of promise, it is also a place of separation. It asks you to decide what belongs to the future and what only belongs to survival. It asks you to recognize what helped you get here but cannot lead you from here. It asks you to stop romanticizing the cage just because you learned how to decorate it. And I want to say this gently but clearly. The old identity will not leave simply because the calendar changes. The old identity has to be confronted, not hated, not shamed, not cursed. Confronted, because the old identity knows your fears, it knows your triggers, it knows how to sound reasonable. It knows how to call fear wisdom. It knows how to call delay patience. It knows how to call self-abandonment love. It knows how to call smallness humility. It knows how to call control preparation. It knows how to call returning to old pain loyalty. So before Saturday becomes a real beginning, you must recognize the patterns that will try to follow you through the door. The first thing you must refuse to carry is your attachment to the old version of yourself. This may sound simple, but it is one of the hardest things for a chosen one to release, because the old version of you was familiar. Even if that version suffered, at least you knew how to be them. You knew how to survive as that person. You knew how to manage people as that person. You knew how to expect disappointment as that person. You knew how to shrink, adapt, overthink, apologize, endure, and keep going as that person. There can be a strange comfort in a pain you already know, and that is why the new you may feel uncomfortable at first. Peace may feel strange because chaos trained your nervous system to expect intensity. Healthy love may feel suspicious because inconsistency taught you to call anxiety connection. Rest may feel irresponsible because exhaustion taught you to measure your worth by how much you carry. Silence may feel dangerous because you learned to explain everything before someone could misunderstand you. Receiving may feel unsafe because life trained you to prepare for loss the moment something good arrives. This is how old identity hides. It does not always say, go backward. Sometimes it says, be careful. Sometimes it says, do not trust this peace. Sometimes it says, you are changing too much. Sometimes it says, who do you think you are? Sometimes it says, what if you become visible and fail? Sometimes it says, what if you set that boundary and everyone leaves? Sometimes it says, what if you stop performing and nobody chooses you? And because those questions sound protective, you may confuse them with wisdom. But chosen one, not every voice that sounds cautious is wise. Sometimes it is only fear wearing the language of protection. Sometimes it is only the memory of disappointment trying to manage the future before the future even arrives. Sometimes it is only the old self trying to keep its position because it does not know how to rest. You must understand something about the old self. It does not trust the new door because it was formed in the old room. It learned from what hurt you. It learned from who left. It learned from what failed. It learned from what you had to survive. It learned how to keep you from being embarrassed, rejected, abandoned, disappointed, exposed, or vulnerable. And for a time, that old self protected you. But protection can become imprisonment when the danger has passed and the guard refuses to open the gate. This is why you must not let the old identity lead the new season. The old identity may know how to survive pain, but it does not know how to receive peace. The old identity may know how to function in confusion, but it does not know how to walk in clarity. The old identity may know how to keep people comfortable, but it does not know how to protect your calling. The old identity may know how to brace for disappointment, but it does not know how to prepare for blessing. The old identity may know how to endure being overlooked, but it does not know how to stand when it is finally time to be seen. So the first refusal is inward. You must refuse to keep introducing yourself to the future with the language of your past. You are not the rejected one. You are not the forgotten one. You are not the unlucky one. You are not the one who always gets close and loses it. You are not the one who must beg for love. You are not the one who must suffer before anything good can happen. You are not the one who must shrink to be safe. You are not the one who must explain your worth until someone finally believes you. Those may have been chapters. They are not your name. And if you want a simple mental action for this, do it inside yourself right now, wherever you are. Imagine the old identity as an old coat you have worn through storms. It is heavy. It has kept you warm in certain seasons, but now it is soaked with memories, fear, grief, and old agreements. You do not need to throw it away with hatred. You simply imagine taking it off and laying it at the threshold. Then let your inner voice say, you carried me through the storm, but you cannot dress me for the new season. That sentence matters. You carried me through the storm, but you cannot dress me for the new season. Let that become an inner separation, because you cannot keep wearing survival as your identity and then wonder why freedom feels unfamiliar. The second thing you must refuse to carry is growth guilt. Growth guilt is the heaviness that rises when you begin becoming someone who is no longer as available, as predictable, as easy to control, or as willing to abandon yourself as before. It is the guilt that whispers, maybe I am being selfish. It is the guilt that whispers, maybe I should answer even though I need peace. It is the guilt that whispers, maybe I should explain one more time. It is the guilt that whispers, maybe I am wrong for changing. It is the guilt that whispers, maybe I should stay connected even if the connection keeps pulling me backward. It is the guilt that whispers, maybe protecting what is being built in me means I am hurting people. Chosen one, that guilt can sit heavy. It can make you question yourself. It can make you replay conversations. It can make you wonder if boundaries are cruelty. It can make you feel responsible for emotions that are not yours to manage. It can make you want to shrink your growth so others do not feel the distance between where they are and where you are going. But listen carefully. Boundaries are not betrayal. Distance is not hatred. Silence is not cruelty. Growth is not abandonment. Peace is not pride. Protecting your spirit is not selfish. And becoming unavailable for dysfunction does not mean you have stopped loving people. It means you have stopped letting dysfunction use love as an excuse to keep draining you. There is a difference between loving someone and letting them have unlimited access to the most sacred parts of you. There is a difference between being compassionate and being consumed. There is a difference between forgiving a person and volunteering to repeat the same wound. There is a difference between honoring a history and dragging that history into a future where it no longer belongs. Growth guilt often rises because your old relationships had access to your old patterns. They knew the version who answered quickly. They knew the version who felt bad for needing space. They knew the version who over-explained every boundary. They knew the version who would rather carry resentment quietly than risk disappointing someone openly. They knew the version who could be pulled back with one sad message, one accusation, one reminder of the past, one performance of hurt, one sentence that made you feel responsible for everything. But this new you cannot be led by emotional hooks. This new you has to become wise enough to know when guilt is a teacher and when guilt is a chain. Real guilt corrects you when you violate truth. False guilt punishes you for obeying truth. Real guilt brings responsibility. False guilt brings bondage. Real guilt leads to repair. False guilt leads to self-erasure. Real guilt says, make it right. False guilt says, make everyone comfortable, even if you disappear. You must learn the difference, because as you grow, some people may not miss your heart. They may miss your availability. They may not miss your presence. They may miss your usefulness. They may not miss your true self. They may miss the version of you that never challenged the pattern. And that realization can hurt, but it can also free you. You are allowed to outgrow conversations that keep you small. You are allowed to outgrow roles you accepted when you did not know your worth. You are allowed to outgrow people who only feel close when you are abandoning yourself. You are allowed to outgrow rooms where your spirit has to hold its breath. You are allowed to outgrow habits that keep your future tied to your fear. You are allowed to outgrow the version of you who thought peace had to be earned by exhaustion. You are allowed to protect what is being built in you. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always meant to become. Let that settle inside you. You are allowed to protect what is being built in you. That does not mean you become careless with people. It does not mean you become arrogant. It does not mean you use spiritual language to avoid accountability. It does not mean you disappear without wisdom or treat people like they are disposable. It means you stop treating your own soul like it is disposable. It means you stop managing every reaction to your growth. It means you stop asking people who benefited from your broken boundaries to bless your healing. It means you stop waiting for everyone to understand before you obey what peace has already made clear. Here is a mental action for growth guilt. Imagine a courtroom inside your spirit. Growth guilt walks in like an accuser, carrying a list of everyone you might disappoint by becoming whole. It begins reading names. It begins reading expectations. It begins reading old roles. It says, you must stay the same because they are used to you this way. Now imagine peace standing up in that courtroom. Not loud, not angry, just steady. Peace says, this soul is not guilty for healing. This soul is not guilty for growing. This soul is not guilty for needing room. This soul is not guilty for refusing to carry what was never assigned. Let that inner verdict be spoken over you. Not guilty for healing. Not guilty for growing. Not guilty for needing room. Not guilty for becoming new. If this message is reaching you deeply, when you are able and when it is safe, you can write this short declaration in the comments. I will not carry the old identity through the door. Not as performance, as agreement. The third thing you must refuse to carry is the fear of being seen. This one may surprise you because many chosen ones think they only fear failure. But sometimes the deeper fear is success. Sometimes the deeper fear is visibility. Sometimes the deeper fear is that if life finally opens, you will be exposed. People will see you. People will expect from you. People will question you. People will watch you carry what you prayed for. And suddenly the blessing feels heavy before it even arrives. You may want the new door and fear the weight of walking through it. You may want purpose and fear responsibility. You may want love and fear being known. You may want provision and fear losing yourself. You may want visibility and fear criticism. You may want a new identity and fear that people will ask, who do you think you are? This fear is not always weakness. Sometimes it is a sign that you understand the weight. People who have no reverence for purpose often rush into visibility without considering the responsibility attached to it. But a mature soul trembles before sacred assignments. A mature soul understands that to be seen is not just to be admired. It is to be tested. It is to be refined. It is to be misunderstood by some and recognized by others. It is to carry more light without using that light to glorify the ego. So do not shame the fear, but do not let it rule. There is a difference between reverence and paralysis. Reverence bows before the weight and still obeys. Paralysis bows before fear and calls it humility. Reverence says, I will move carefully. Paralysis says, I will not move at all. Reverence says, form me as I carry this. Paralysis says, hide me until I never have to risk anything. And chosen one, the new you, cannot be built from hiding forever. There was a time when hiding protected what was tender. There was a time when silence preserved what was still forming. There was a time when being unseen gave your roots a chance to deepen. But when hiding becomes an identity, it can become another cage. You were not formed in the hidden place so you could worship hiding. You were formed there so that when the time came to step forward, you would have roots deep enough to survive the wind. This Saturday may not make you publicly visible overnight. That is not the point. The point is that something inside you may stop agreeing with the belief that being seen is always dangerous. You may begin to feel the first small courage to speak truth, the first small courage to show your gift, the first small courage to apply for the door, the first small courage to let someone love you without making them chase you through every wall built by old pain, the first small courage to say, I am allowed to be seen in a way that does not destroy me. Visibility does not mean performance. Visibility does not mean losing yourself. Visibility does not mean becoming loud, careless, or addicted to attention. Visibility means allowing what is true in you to have expression. For some, that expression may be a voice. For some, a business. For some, a relationship. For some, a ministry. For some, a creative work. For some, a healing conversation. For some, a leadership role. For some, simply the courage to stop hiding behind the personality that kept everyone from knowing how much wisdom you carry. But whatever form it takes, the fear will ask the same question. What if you fail? What if they judge you? What if you are not ready? What if you become proud? What if you lose people? What if this exposes the parts of you still healing? And the new, you must answer with truth. I do not have to be perfect to be obedient. I do not have to be fearless to be faithful. I do not have to be understood by everyone to be aligned. I do not have to shrink my light to prove humility. I do not have to hide forever because visibility once felt unsafe. I can be seen and still be grounded. I can be blessed and still be humble. I can receive more and still remain true. I can grow without becoming someone I would not respect. This is a major shift, because the old you may have thought safety meant staying small, but the new you will learn that safety comes from alignment, not invisibility. The old you may have thought humility meant refusing to acknowledge your gift, but the new you will learn that true humility is not denying what was placed in you. True humility is carrying it without worshipping yourself for having it. There is an inner action for this fear. Imagine the fear of being seen as a curtain hanging in front of a window. Behind that curtain is light, not a stage, not a crowd, not pressure, just light. The old identity tells you, keep the curtain closed because light attracts attention. But your new self walks to the curtain and opens it only enough for one beam to enter. Not the whole window, just one beam. That is your next step. You do not need to expose your whole life. You do not need to rush into a version of visibility your nervous system cannot hold. You only need to agree with the next beam of truth, the next honest word, the next aligned action, the next small expression, the next brave yes. That is how fear loses authority, not through reckless exposure, through faithful expression. The fourth thing you must refuse to carry is the need to control and force what is meant to unfold. This pattern is very subtle because it often disguises itself as responsibility. And yes, responsibility matters. Preparation matters. Discipline matters. Action matters. Wisdom matters. You are not being called to become passive, careless, or vague. You are not being called to sit back and do nothing while calling it surrender. But there is a difference between aligned action and anxious forcing. Aligned action has peace underneath it, even when it requires courage. Anxious forcing has panic underneath it, even when it looks productive. Aligned action listens. Anxious forcing grasps. Aligned action prepares. Anxious forcing manipulates. Aligned action moves with timing. Anxious forcing tries to punish life for not moving faster. Aligned action says, I will do my part. Anxious forcing says, I must control every part or everything will fall apart. Chosen one, if you have been disappointed enough times, control can feel like safety. You may think, if I do not manage every detail, I will lose it. If I do not push, nothing will happen. If I do not chase, I will be forgotten. If I do not explain, they will misunderstand me. If I do not rush, the door will close. If I do not hold it together, everything will collapse. But control is exhausting because it asks you to become responsible for things that were never fully yours to carry. You can be responsible for your choices. You cannot control every outcome. You can be responsible for your preparation. You cannot control every timeline. You can be responsible for your words. You cannot control every interpretation. You can be responsible for your boundaries. You cannot control every reaction. You can be responsible for your obedience. You cannot control every door. This is why surrender is not weakness. Surrender is the moment you stop confusing your role with the role of the divine, the timing, the path, and the unseen arrangements you cannot force into visibility. You do your part. You release what is not your part. You prepare the soil. You do not scream at the seed. You walk to the door. You do not break the door down before it is time. You speak truth. You do not try to control who receives it. You build with discipline. You do not worship speed. You act with courage. You do not demand that life prove everything immediately. If Saturday marks a beginning, then forcing is one of the quickest ways to distort it. Because a beginning needs care. A beginning needs patience. A beginning needs protection. A beginning needs honesty. If you grab it too hard, you may bruise what is still tender. If you rush to explain it, you may expose it to people who only know how to question what they cannot control. If you try to turn the beginning into instant evidence, you may miss the quiet instructions that come before visible movement. So refuse forcing. Refuse the panic that says, if it does not happen immediately, it is not real. Refuse the pressure that says, if people do not recognize it, it has no value. Refuse the fear that says, if I do not chase, I will lose it. Refuse the old urgency that turns every sacred beginning into a performance. What is aligned will not require you to betray your peace in order to hold it. This does not mean aligned things never require effort. They often do, but effort and torment are not the same. Discipline and panic are not the same. Commitment and desperation are not the same. Spiritual maturity means learning the difference. Now I want to give you a simple inner framework for this threshold. You can use it without writing anything down. You can use it while sitting, lying down, walking, driving, or simply listening. It is called the Saturday Threshold Audit. This is not about making a dramatic list. It is about letting 5 questions pass through your inner world and noticing what rises. The first question is, what drains me every time I return to it? Let the answer rise without forcing it. The second question is, what am I keeping alive out of guilt? Let the answer rise without defending it. The third question is, what version of myself am I still performing? Let the answer rise without shame. The fourth question is, what would I stop doing if I truly trusted the new season? Let the answer rise without bargaining. The fifth question is, what one boundary would protect my peace immediately? Let the answer rise without fear. You do not need to solve every answer today. Just let truth stand where denial has been sitting. Sometimes the first act of freedom is not action. It is recognition, because what you can finally name, you can finally stop worshipping. After that, use what I call the 3-door discernment rule. Every person, habit, opportunity, invitation, and decision that wants to enter your new season must pass through 3 inner doors. The first door is peace. Ask yourself, does this bring grounded peace, or does it create nervous urgency? Not excitement alone, not comfort alone. Grounded peace, the kind that may still require courage, but does not require self-betrayal. The second door is alignment. Ask yourself, does this fit the person I am becoming, or does it only fit the person I used to be? Some things are not bad, they are simply outdated. Some doors are not evil, they are simply too small. Some connections are not enemies, they are simply not aligned with the direction your spirit is being led. The third door is fruit. Ask yourself, what does this produce over time? Does it produce clarity, courage, honesty, humility, love, strength, and integrity? Or does it produce confusion, obsession, fear, self-abandonment, resentment, and spiritual exhaustion? Peace, alignment, drought. If something cannot pass through those 3 doors, do not rush to carry it through the Saturday threshold just because it is familiar. The old you may ask, but what if I lose it? The new you must ask, what will I lose if I keep it? That question will change you. What will I lose if I keep it? My peace? My clarity? My obedience? My future? My energy? My trust in myself? My sensitivity to guidance? My ability to receive what is actually aligned? Sometimes the cost of keeping an old thing is the new life trying to arrive. And then there is the quiet upgrade protocol. This is for the chosen one who feels the shift but does not need to announce every detail. This is for the one who is learning that sacred changes do not always need public explanations. This is for the one who is becoming stronger, calmer, clearer, and more selective without turning growth into performance. The quiet upgrade protocol is simple. Withdraw your energy from what keeps pulling you into the old self. Clean your inner agreement before you try to change every outer detail. Decide what you will no longer feed. Act in small ways that prove the new identity is real. Observe who respects the change and who resists it. You do not need to explain every quiet upgrade. You do not need to make a speech every time you stop responding to a pattern. You do not need to convince people that your peace matters. You do not need to defend the new boundary before it has had time to protect you. You do not need to tell everyone what Saturday means to you. Some transformations are weakened by too much exposure too early. Let the seed remain underground long enough to root. Let the new discipline become stable before you announce it. Let the boundary become part of your nervous system before you debate it with people who do not respect it. Let your fruit speak when the season is ready. This is not secrecy from fear. This is privacy from wisdom. There is a difference. Fear hides because it is ashamed. Wisdom protects because it understands value. Fear disappears to avoid growth. Wisdom withdraws to preserve alignment. Fear stays silent because it has no voice. Wisdom stays silent until the voice is steady enough to speak without needing approval. Chosen one, this is how you guard the beginning. You do not guard it by becoming paranoid. You guard it by becoming discerning. You do not guard it by rejecting everyone. You guard it by recognizing access. You do not guard it by forcing outcomes. You guard it by obeying the next aligned step. You do not guard it by pretending you are already fully healed. You guard it by telling the truth about what still tries to pull you back. And what may try to pull you back is often not something dramatic. It may be one old conversation, one old habit, one old emotional reaction, one old agreement, one old story you keep repeating, one old fear that sounds like logic, one old attachment that calls itself loyalty. This is why the threshold must be guarded in small moments. The new you is not only proven in the big decision. The new you is proven when the familiar message appears and you do not collapse into the old role. The new you is proven when guilt rises and you do not hand it the steering wheel. The new you is proven when fear of visibility whispers, "Hide again," and you choose one honest expression instead. The new you is proven when panic tells you to force the outcome, and you choose steady action without spiritual desperation. Small decisions become sacred evidence, and if you stumble, do not turn one stumble into a return to the old identity. That is another trick of the old self. It says, "See, you have not changed." It says, "See, you are still the same." It says, "See, you reacted again, feared again, doubted again, delayed again, went back again, explained again, overgave again, so the new beginning must not be real." Do not believe that voice. Growth is not proven by never feeling old patterns. Growth is proven by recognizing them sooner, recovering faster, choosing differently more often, and refusing to let a moment of weakness become your name. The old pattern may knock. That does not mean it owns the house. The old fear may speak. That does not mean it has authority. The old guilt may rise. That does not mean it is truth. The old urgency may return. That does not mean you must obey it. The old identity may reach for the coat you laid at the threshold. That does not mean you have to put it back on. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to return to peace. You are allowed to choose again. You are allowed to say, "I recognize this pattern, but I am not partnering with it today." That sentence is powerful. I recognize this pattern, but I am not partnering with it today. Use it when the old identity tries to speak. Use it when guilt tries to govern. Use it when visibility fear tries to hide you. Use it when control tries to rush you. Use it when the familiar tries to convince you that familiar means safe. Because the door may open, but your agreement determines what walks through with you. Saturday is not asking you to become perfect. It is asking you to become conscious. Conscious of what drains you. Conscious of what leads you. Conscious of what you keep excusing. Conscious of what you keep calling love when it is really fear. Conscious of what you keep calling patience when it is really avoidance. Conscious of what you keep calling humility when it is really shame. Conscious of what you keep calling responsibility when it is really control. Conscious of what you keep calling loyalty when it is really attachment to an expired identity. This awareness is not meant to condemn you. It is meant to free you, because once you can see the pattern loses some of its invisibility. Once it loses invisibility, it loses some of its power. Once it loses power, you can choose, and once you can choose, the future is no longer being fully managed by the wound. That is what the new you is learning. The new you is not a person who never feels fear. The new you is a person who does not let fear make every decision. The new you is not a person who never feels guilt. The new you is a person who can tell the difference between conviction and manipulation. The new you is not a person who never feels the pull of the past. The new you is a person who can feel the pull and still walk forward. The new you is not a person who has every answer. The new you is a person who has stopped betraying peace just to keep the old story alive. And as you approach this Saturday, I want you to carry this image. There is a doorway before you. Behind you are old rooms. Some of them were painful. Some were beautiful. Some were confusing. Some were necessary. Some were never meant to last as long as they did. In those rooms are old coats, old scripts, old names, old fears, old roles, old apologies, old obligations, old versions of love that required you to disappear. You do not need to burn the house down. You do not need to curse the rooms. You do not need to prove that every person in those rooms was evil. You simply need to recognize that you are not called to live there anymore. So as you stand before the doorway, inwardly place 4 things on the ground. Place the old identity there. Place the growth guilt there. Place the fear of being seen there. Place the need to control everything there. And then let your spirit say, these may have traveled with me, but they are not authorized to lead me. These may have shaped my survival, but they are not assigned to my future. These may have spoken loudly, but they are not the voice I will obey. These may have been familiar, but they are not my home. That is how you refuse to carry them. Not by pretending they never existed, by removing their authority. And the moment their authority begins to break, something else starts rising. Your true identity, not the identity built from pain, not the identity built from rejection, not the identity built from performance, not the identity built from fear, not the identity built from who needed you, who left you, who doubted you, who used you, who misunderstood you, or who failed to see your worth. The identity underneath all of that, the one that existed before survival, trained you to hide. The one that was always more peaceful than the chaos around you. The one that was always more discerning than the confusion you were handed. The one that was always more powerful than the rooms that tried to shrink you. The one that was always more cold than your fear wanted you to believe. This is what we must speak about next. Because it is not enough to know what you must leave behind. You must also know who is rising. You must know the version of you that Saturday is marking. You must know why this new self is not just a mood, not just a burst of motivation, not just a temporary feeling, and not just a reaction to pain. This new self has a name in the spirit. This new self has qualities. This new self has assignments. This new self has a voice, a light, a strength, a mercy, a courage, and a way of walking that the old season could not destroy. And when you see who you are becoming, you will understand why so much had to fall away. You will understand why certain relationships shifted. You will understand why purpose kept calling. You will understand why provision needed your identity to change first. You will understand why the old self could not lead the new beginning. So listen closely now. The door is before you. The old weight is at the threshold. The false guilt is losing its case. The fear of being seen is losing its curtain. The need to control is losing its grip. And now, the question is no longer only, what must you refuse to carry? The question is, who are you becoming when you finally stop carrying it? Who are you becoming when you finally stop carrying it? Chosen one. This is the question that everything has been leading to. Not what are you losing, not who misunderstood you, not what ended, not what shifted, not what had to be placed at the threshold, but who are you becoming now that the old weight no longer gets to name you? Because this new you is not a mood. It is not a temporary emotional high. It is not a reaction to pain. It is not a personality you are trying to perform because you are tired of being hurt. It is not a costume you put on to prove people wrong. This new you is deeper than that. This new you is the version that existed beneath the fear, beneath the self-protection, beneath the old agreements, beneath the survival patterns, beneath the noise, beneath the roles you accepted, because you did not yet know how sacred your peace was. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming more true. And that is why this Saturday matters. It marks the beginning of a season where what has been hidden inside you begins to rise with language, with clarity, with boundaries, with purpose, with steadiness, with a different kind of presence. This is not about being loud. This is about being aligned. This is not about becoming untouchable. This is about no longer being available for what keeps touching the wounded version of you just to keep it alive. This is not about separating yourself from humanity. This is about finally belonging to yourself in a way that allows you to love others without disappearing. So now, let us speak clearly about who is rising. The first version of you that is rising is the cycle breaker. This is the part of you that finally says, "This ends with me." Not in anger, not in pride, not in bitterness, but in clarity. The cycle breaker is the one who looks at old patterns and refuses to keep calling them normal. The cycle breaker recognizes that just because something has been repeated for years does not mean it has authority forever. The cycle breaker looks at fear, abandonment, emotional chaos, self-betrayal, overgiving, silence, people-pleasing, and inherited pain, and says, "I may have lived around this, but I will not build my future from it." This is who you are becoming. Someone who can recognize a pattern before it becomes a prison. Someone who can feel the pull of the familiar and still choose the unfamiliar piece. Someone who can say, "I understand why I used to respond that way, but I am not required to keep responding that way." Someone who can honor where they came from without repeating everything that happened there. The cycle breaker in you will not always feel heroic. Sometimes it will feel lonely. Sometimes it will feel like being the first one in the room to stop laughing at something that is not funny. Sometimes it will feel like being the first one to stop pretending a wound is normal. Sometimes it will feel like refusing to keep a family pattern, a relationship pattern, a money pattern, an emotional pattern, or a spiritual pattern alive, simply because everyone before you adjusted to it. But this is sacred work, because when one person chooses healing with honesty, the future begins receiving a different inheritance. You may not see the full fruit immediately. You may not receive applause. Some people may not understand why you no longer participate in the same emotional economy. They may not understand why you do not argue the same way, chase the same way, panic the same way, react the same way, or keep giving access to the same old wounds. But the cycle breaker does not need everyone to understand in order to obey. The cycle breaker understands that a quiet no today can protect an entire future. The cycle breaker understands that a small boundary today can end a pattern that would have consumed years. The cycle breaker understands that every time you choose peace over performance, truth over fear, clarity over confusion, and alignment over approval, you are not just making a decision, you are changing a pattern. And this Saturday marks the beginning of that pattern, losing authority. The next version of you that is rising is the light bearer. This is the part of you that carries clarity into confused places. Not because you force people to see, not because you try to fix everyone, not because you stand above others, but because something in you has been refined by darkness without becoming dark. You know what it feels like to walk through rooms where people say one thing and mean another. You know what it feels like to sense heaviness before anyone names it. You know what it feels like to see the wound beneath the behavior, the fear beneath the anger, the grief beneath the silence, the insecurity beneath the performance. For a long time, you may have thought this sensitivity was a burden. You may have wished you could ignore more. You may have wished you could feel less. You may have wished you could walk into spaces without immediately sensing what is unsaid. But chosen one, your sensitivity is not weakness. Your sensitivity needed boundaries. Your light needed protection. Your discernment needed maturity. Because a light bearer without boundaries becomes exhausted. A light bearer without discernment becomes a sponge for everyone else's chaos. A light bearer without grounding tries to rescue people who are not ready to be honest. A light bearer without self-respect keeps entering dark rooms and calling burnout compassion. But the new you will carry light differently. You will not confuse being bright with being endlessly available. You will not confuse being loving with being absorbent. You will not confuse being intuitive with being responsible for every emotion in the room. You will not confuse seeing pain with being assigned to heal all of it. This is a major sign of maturity. The old you may have entered rooms and adjusted yourself to the heaviness. The new you will enter rooms and remain anchored in peace. The old you may have absorbed confusion. The new you will recognize it without becoming it. The old you may have tried to make everyone comfortable. The new you will understand that truth may be uncomfortable and still be loving. This Saturday begins a season where your light becomes cleaner, not louder, cleaner, less mixed with the need to be needed, less mixed with the fear of disappointing people, less mixed with the pressure to prove you are good by exhausting yourself for people who do not honor what you carry. You are becoming a light bearer who can illuminate without burning out. And that is powerful. The next version of you that is rising is the builder. This is important because many chosen ones are strong at surviving, but the new season will ask you to build. Survival teaches you how to endure. Building teaches you how to create. Survival asks, how do I get through this? Building asks, what am I here to establish? Survival reacts to pressure. Building responds with structure. Survival measures time by crisis. Building measures time by faithfulness. And chosen one, you are not only healing so you can feel better, you are healing so you can build from a place that is no longer ruled by the wound. There is something you are meant to create in this season. It may be a new routine. It may be a healthier inner life. It may be a business, a message, a home, a family pattern, a body of work, a community, a channel, a service, a discipline, a relationship, a quiet life with deep peace, or a structure that supports the calling you have carried for years. Do not underestimate structure. A gift without structure becomes scattered. A calling without discipline becomes frustration. A dream without habits becomes a fantasy. A blessing without stewardship becomes weight. The builder in you understands that the new you cannot be sustained only by inspiration. There must be rhythm. There must be boundaries. There must be decisions. There must be repeated agreements with what is true. There must be a way of living that supports the person you say you are becoming. This is why Saturday is not only a spiritual marker, it is a practical invitation. What will the new you do differently with your morning? What will the new you stop feeding with attention? What will the new you protect from noise? What will the new you practice when nobody is watching? What will the new you build quietly, consistently, and honestly, without needing immediate applause? Because the future will not only be entered, it will be built. And the builder in you must stop waiting for perfect conditions. You do not need the whole map to lay the first stone. You do not need everyone to support the foundation. You do not need the crowd to understand what is being built underground. You do not need certainty about every step to obey the step that is clear. Build the first rhythm. Build the first boundary. Build the first habit. Build the first honest yes. Build the first peaceful no. Build the first quiet act of discipline that proves the old identity is no longer in charge. That is how the new you becomes visible in the world. Not by one emotional decision, by repeated alignment. The next version of you that is rising is the wounded healer. This does not mean your pain was good. This does not mean what happened to you was acceptable. This does not mean the betrayal, the abandonment, the rejection, the delay, the loneliness, or the confusion should be romanticized. No, pain does not become sacred because it hurt you. Pain becomes transformed when it no longer gets to own you. The wounded healer is the one who refuses to let the wound become the final voice. The wounded healer is the one who learns from pain without worshipping pain. The wounded healer is the one who can sit with another person's heaviness without needing to prove themselves by carrying all of it. The wounded healer is the one who turns lessons into compassion, not bitterness. This is who you are becoming. Someone whose scars have language, someone whose survival has wisdom, someone whose grief has tenderness, someone whose mistakes have humility, someone whose healing becomes a lantern, not a weapon. The old you may have asked, "Why did I have to go through that?" The new you may begin to ask, "What did that teach me that can now serve life without keeping me imprisoned?" There is a difference. You are not here to build an identity around trauma. You are here to let what was broken become a place where deeper truth can breathe. You are not here to become everyone's emergency room. You are here to carry wisdom with boundaries. You are not here to rescue people from every lesson they refuse to learn. You are here to embody the possibility that pain does not get the final word. The wounded healer in you will know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to help and when to release, when to comfort and when to let someone face truth, when to be present and when to protect your own peace. Because healing does not mean becoming endlessly available to wounded people. Healing means you are no longer governed by your own unhealed wound while trying to respond to theirs. That is why this identity matters. You are becoming someone who can love with wisdom. You are becoming someone who can be gentle without being gullible. You are becoming someone who can understand pain without making pain your home. You are becoming someone whose story does not end with what broke you. The next version of you that is rising is the pioneer. The pioneer is the one who goes first. Not always publicly, not always dramatically, but internally, spiritually, emotionally, and sometimes literally. The pioneer steps into territory that the old self could not understand. The pioneer does not always have a crowd. The pioneer often moves before applause. The pioneer often walks with a strange mixture of fear and certainty. The pioneer hears the call before the map appears. The pioneer senses direction before the road is fully visible. And that may be you. You may be the one in your circle who begins choosing peace differently. You may be the one who starts building something no one around you understands. You may be the one who breaks away from a pattern that everyone else calls normal. You may be the one who follows a purpose that cannot be fully explained yet. You may be the one who says yes to a door before the people around you can validate it. This does not mean you act recklessly. The true pioneer is not careless. The true pioneer is guided. The true pioneer knows that being first requires humility, not ego. It requires listening. It requires patience. It requires the ability to move without needing constant external approval. It requires the strength to be misunderstood without becoming bitter, and the softness to keep learning without becoming arrogant. This Saturday may mark the beginning of your pioneer season, a season where you stop waiting for everyone to come with you before you obey what has been calling you, a season where you stop shrinking the vision because the people around you only understand the version of you that stayed close to what was familiar, a season where you stop asking old environments for permission to become someone they were never designed to hold. The pioneer in you is not trying to abandon everyone. The pioneer in you is simply refusing to abandon the path. And there is a difference. Some will understand later. Some may never understand. But your obedience cannot be held hostage by the comfort of those who only feel safe when you stay unchanged. You are allowed to go first. You are allowed to walk carefully and still walk. You are allowed to be nervous and still move. You are allowed to be unseen and still be guided. You are allowed to begin before every question is answered. The next version of you that is rising is the voice. This may be one of the most important parts of the new you, because your voice has been through a long journey. There were seasons when silence protected you. There were seasons when speaking would have cost too much. There were seasons when you did not have the words. There were seasons when every time you tried to explain your heart, it was twisted, dismissed, minimized, or used against you. So you learned to swallow words. You learned to make peace with being misunderstood. You learned to speak in ways that would not disturb the room. You learned to say less than you felt, because the full truth might have been too much for people who only wanted the version of you that was easy to manage. But the new you is bringing your voice back, not as a weapon, not as noise, not as performance, not as a desperate attempt to be believed. Your voice is returning as truth with restraint, truth with timing, truth with courage, truth with compassion, truth that does not need to scream, because it is no longer begging for permission to exist. The voice in you will speak what the old you was afraid to name. It will say, "This does not feel aligned." It will say, "I need peace." It will say, "No." It will say, "Yes," but only if it is honest. It will say, "I am not available for that pattern anymore." It will say, "I forgive, but I am not reopening the same door." It will say, "I am ready to begin." It will say, "I do not need to be understood by everyone to be true." And for some of you, this voice will become bigger than your personal life. It may become a message. It may become a creative expression. It may become teaching. It may become leadership. It may become prayer. It may become writing. It may become business. It may become a way of helping others say what they have never had language for. Because the voice is not only about talking, it is about expression. It is about truth being given form. It is about the inner world no longer staying trapped, because fear convinced you that silence was the only safe place. Chosen one, your voice is not returning so you can argue with everyone. Your voice is returning so you can stop abandoning truth. And now, all of these identities come together. The cycle breaker ends the pattern. The light bearer brings clarity. The builder creates structure. The wounded healer turns pain into wisdom. The pioneer takes the first step. The voice gives truth expression. This is who you are becoming. Not a fantasy version. Not a perfect version. Not an untouchable version. A truer version. A clearer version. A steadier version. A version that can carry more without losing peace. A version that can love deeper without disappearing. A version that can be seen without worshipping attention. A version that can receive without expecting loss. A version that can build without needing applause. A version that can release without hatred. A version that can walk into a new beginning without dragging every old agreement through the door. And this is the deeper revelation. You are not becoming new in the shallow sense. You are becoming new in quality. There is an old word that carries this idea, kainos. It does not only mean new as in recent, it means new in nature, new in quality, new in kind, something that is not merely patched up, but made different in its essence. That is what this season is about. Not just a new date, not just a new mood, not just a new burst of motivation, a new quality of being. You are not just trying harder. You are becoming different in the way you agree, choose, receive, release, speak, build, rest, and trust. The old version may have wanted a new life while still carrying the old inner agreement, but the new you understands that if the inner quality does not change, the outer circumstances will eventually bend back into the same pattern. This is why Saturday matters as a marker. It is the day you stop treating your transformation like a vague feeling and begin agreeing with it as a real formation. It is the day you stop asking, "What if I am changing?" and begin saying, "I am changing, and I will honor what is changing." It is the day you stop calling the old cage a personality. It is the day you stop calling fear wisdom. It is the day you stop calling exhaustion responsibility. It is the day you stop calling self-betrayal love. It is the day you stop calling survival your highest identity. This is the beginning of a different quality of you. And now, I want to return to something we opened earlier. Because when a person begins stepping into a new identity, the shift is not only emotional, it is not only spiritual. There is also something happening in the mind, in focus, in clarity, in the way you receive instruction, in the way your intuition speaks, in the way your inner world becomes either foggy or sharp. Earlier, I mentioned the idea of an inner switch connected to clarity, intuition, and the state where your mind becomes more available to what you were created to carry. This matters because many chosen ones feel a strange contradiction. Deep inside, they know they were born for more. They can feel the calling. They can feel the gift. They can feel the deeper intelligence. They can remember seasons, especially earlier in life, when learning felt easier, intuition felt stronger, creativity felt more natural, and the world felt more alive. But then life became heavy. Pressure came, noise came, disappointment came. The modern world came with its constant stimulation, endless scrolling, stress, comparison, fear, and exhaustion. And little by little, many people began feeling like the brightest part of their mind went dim. Not gone, dim. The focus became weaker. The intuition became harder to trust. The imagination became buried under survival. The inner signal became mixed with static. And this is why I want to speak carefully about a tool that may support some of you in this season. Not as a magic wand, not as a replacement for healing, not as a substitute for wise choices, discipline, prayer, rest, therapy, boundaries, or real action, but as a tool that connects to something we have been talking about all along: recalibration. There is a 7-minute audio track called The Genius Song. It is designed to be listened to through headphones for 7 minutes a day. The idea behind it is connected to brain entrainment and gamma brainwave activity, the kind of brainwave or state often associated with heightened focus, flow, learning, pattern recognition, and moments where the mind feels unusually clear and alive. And the reason this fits this message is simple. If you are stepping into a new you, you do not only need inspiration, you need clarity, you need focus, you need the ability to hear the inner signal beneath the noise. You need your mind to stop living only in survival static, so it can begin cooperating with the identity your spirit is trying to form. Some people describe this as feeling like a radio finally being tuned away from static and back toward the signal. That is the picture I want you to hold. Your mind is not broken. Your signal has been crowded. The Genius Song is presented as a simple sound-based tool to help support that inner tuning process. Again, not a miracle button, not a promise that everything changes without your participation. But for the person who feels like their inner clarity has been buried, it may be worth exploring. One of the stories connected to this tool that stands out is about a teacher in her 40s who felt like her mind had been running at a fraction of its real capacity. She had spent years helping other people grow while feeling strangely stuck inside her own life. After using the 7-minute practice for a few weeks, she described ideas returning more naturally and decisions she had delayed for a long time becoming clearer. What stands out is not that her whole life was magically fixed. What stands out is that clarity began returning, and sometimes clarity is the first provision. Another person described it differently. She had tried many spiritual practices, but still felt like the connection she longed for stayed just out of reach. After using the audio, she described the change not as a dramatic performance, but as synchronicities becoming more noticeable, as if life began speaking in a language she could understand again. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, I have tried things before. I have tried meditation. I have tried healing sounds. I have tried different practices, and nothing really changed. That skepticism is understandable, but the reason this is different in its framing is that it is not asking you to force your mind into stillness for hours. It is based on the idea that sound can help guide the brain toward a certain state. That is what brain entrainment is about. Instead of trying to climb into clarity only through effort, The audio is designed to support the mind in moving toward a more focused, receptive frequency. You may also be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. That is also fair. Anyone who has been disappointed enough times should be careful. You should not believe something only because it sounds beautiful. You should investigate. You should use wisdom. You should pay attention to whether it resonates and whether it makes sense for your life. The reason I mention it here is not to pressure you. It is because some of you are not just waiting for encouragement. You are looking for practical support as you step into this new identity. And if a 7-minute daily practice can help you feel more focused, more clear, and more tuned inward, it may become one small part of the way you cooperate with the new season. Traditionally, deeper brain state training and biofeedback can be expensive. Some sessions can cost hundreds of dollars, and home equipment can cost thousands. The Genius Song takes the idea of sound-based support and makes it simple enough to use at home with headphones. The original price is $49, but the version connected through this message is offered for $39. With it, there are also bonuses included, such as a Genius Child audio, a classic book connected to deeper principles of wealth and mind, a guided visualization, and an infographic with habits meant to support a better future. And there is a money-back guarantee. So if you explore it and feel it is not for you, you are not locked into the decision. Again, hear my tone. This is not a command. This is not a hard sell. This is not me telling you that your transformation depends on a product. Your transformation depends on agreement, truth, boundaries, wisdom, and the choices you make as you become who you are called to be. But tools can support a journey, and sometimes the right tool arrives at the right threshold. If you feel led to explore the 7-minute practice, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Use only that link, because there are fake versions and imitations that may use the name, but do not include the same audio technology, bonuses, or guarantee. Do not search randomly on Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, or other places and assume every version is the real one. If you investigate it, use the link provided with this message. And whether you explore that tool or not, return to the main truth. The new you is not being formed by sound alone. The new you is being formed by agreement. The sound may support focus, but you must still choose peace. You must still protect the threshold. You must still release what cannot come with you. You must still stop calling the old cage your home. You must still become the person who can carry the future without handing the keys back to the past. So now, let us seal this inwardly. You do not need to move your body. You do not need to stand. You do not need to close your eyes, especially if you are doing something that requires attention. Just let your inner world follow the image. Imagine you are standing before a doorway. The door is simple, but it carries weight. Across it is written one word: Saturday. Behind you is the old season. You do not need to hate it. You do not need to deny what happened there. You do not need to pretend it was all bad or all good. You simply recognize that it is no longer the room you are called to live in. On the floor behind you is the old coat from the storm. The coat of survival. The coat of over-explaining. The coat of self-abandonment. The coat of fear. The coat of shame. The coat of needing to be understood by people who were not willing to understand. The coat of calling chaos love. The coat of calling exhaustion value. The coat of calling delay your identity. You look at that coat with gratitude, not hatred. It carried you through cold seasons, but it cannot dress you for the new one. Now imagine the 4 weights you placed down at the threshold. The old identity, the growth guilt, the fear of being seen, the need to control everything. They are not chasing you now. They are on the ground. They may still have voices, but they do not have authority. And in front of you, beyond the door, is not a loud stage. It is not a pressure-filled room. It is not a crowd demanding performance. It is a space filled with quiet light. In that space, the cycle breaker in you stands steady. The light bearer in you stands clear. The builder in you stands ready. The wounded healer in you stands gentle. The pioneer in you stands brave. The voice in you stands truthful. They are not separate people. They are parts of the true you, finally being gathered into one agreement. Now let your spirit say, I do not need to become someone false to enter what is true. Let it say, I release the old agreement. Let it say, I honor the version that survived, but I no longer ask survival to lead. Let it say, I choose peace without apology. Let it say, I choose truth without panic. Let it say, I choose boundaries without guilt. Let it say, I choose purpose without needing applause. Let it say, I choose provision without fear. Let it say, I choose visibility without losing humility. Let it say, I choose the new quality of life being formed in me. And now, in your inner world, take one step through the door. Not a physical step, a spiritual agreement, a decision inside the heart. A quiet yes. You step through not because everything is solved, but because you are no longer willing to keep calling the old room your future. You step through not because fear is gone, but because fear is no longer the leader. You step through not because everyone understands, but because alignment does not require universal approval. You step through not because you are perfect, but because the true version of you has waited long enough. This is the beginning, not the completion. The beginning, and beginnings must be honored. So honor this beginning by not rushing to explain it to everyone. Honor it by protecting your peace. Honor it by choosing one boundary that proves the old identity is no longer in charge. Honor it by giving your purpose one honest act of obedience. Honor it by receiving clarity without immediately turning it into pressure. Honor it by letting your voice return slowly, wisely, truthfully. Honor it by letting Saturday be a marker, not a performance. Chosen one, this Saturday will mark the beginning of a new you, because you are finally seeing what has been forming in silence. You are not the same person who entered the wilderness. You are not the same person who begged for clarity from people who benefited from your confusion. You are not the same person who mistook anxiety for love. You are not the same person who thought being chosen meant being endlessly available. You are not the same person who measured worth by exhaustion. You are not the same person who treated peace like a luxury. You are not the same person who needed every door to open immediately to believe life had not forgotten you. Something in you has changed. Something in you has matured. Something in you has quieted. Something in you has awakened. Something in you has stopped begging for permission to become true. And the world around you may need time to catch up with the shift inside you. Let it. Do not panic if the first sign is internal. Do not dismiss the beginning because it arrives quietly. Do not think nothing happened because the sky did not split open. Some of the most sacred beginnings are quiet enough that only your spirit can hear them. A decision, a release, a boundary, a breath of clarity, a refusal to return, a willingness to receive, a yes spoken inside before it is ever seen outside. That is how the new you begins. And from there, the outer life starts reorganizing. Relationships respond to your new access. Purpose responds to your new obedience. Provision responds to your new alignment. Your body responds to your new peace. Your mind responds to your new focus. Your spirit responds to your new agreement. So when Saturday comes, do not treat it like a superstition. Treat it like a sacred checkpoint. Ask yourself quietly, what am I no longer agreeing with? Ask yourself, what identity am I feeding now? Ask yourself, what would the new me choose in this moment? Ask yourself, what must not cross this threshold with me? Ask yourself, what one small act would honor the person I am becoming? And then choose that act. Do not wait until you feel fearless. Do not wait until everyone understands. Do not wait until the whole path is visible. Do not wait until the old identity stops talking. Choose from the new self anyway. That is how authority changes hands. One aligned decision at a time. One peaceful no at a time. One honest yes at a time. One released burden at a time. One protected boundary at a time. One act of courage at a time. One moment of not going back at a time. And if you feel led, when it is safe for you to do so, leave this short declaration in the comments. This Saturday, I step forward, not for attention, not as a performance, as a witness to your own agreement. This Saturday, I step forward. Let those words become a marker. Let them remind you that the old identity can speak, but it cannot lead unless you hand it authority. Let them remind you that guilt can rise, but it cannot convict you for healing. Let them remind you that fear can knock, but it does not own the house. Let them remind you that what is unfamiliar is not automatically unsafe. Sometimes it is simply new. And let this final blessing settle over you. May the version of you that survived be honored, but not obeyed as the final authority. May the version of you that is rising be protected, strengthened, and made steady. May your peace become louder than your panic. May your clarity become stronger than your confusion. May your boundaries become cleaner than your guilt. May your purpose become more compelling than your fear. May your provision come with wisdom, not desperation. May your relationships be purified by truth, not controlled by old attachment. May your voice return without bitterness. May your light shine without exhaustion. May your healing deepen without isolation becoming your identity. May your future open without you dragging every old wound into the doorway. Chosen one, this is who you are becoming. The cycle breaker who ends what once felt normal. The light bearer who carries clarity without burning out. The builder who creates from alignment instead of survival. The wounded healer who turns pain into wisdom without making pain a throne. The pioneer who steps forward before the crowd understands. The voice who speaks truth without begging to be believed. This is not imagination. This is formation. This is not random. This is timing. This is not the old self trying to improve its cage. This is the true self stepping toward the door. And when Saturday arrives, remember this. You do not need to force the miracle. You do not need to perform the transformation. You do not need to prove the shift to anyone. You only need to agree with what is true. The beginning has already been forming. The signs have already been speaking. The old weight has already been named. The threshold has already been placed before you. Now walk differently. Choose differently. Receive differently. Release differently. Speak differently. Build differently. Rest differently. Love differently. And when the old life tries to call you by the name you no longer carry, do not argue with it. Just keep walking, because the door is open. The old coat is on the ground. The new agreement is in your spirit. And this Saturday will mark the beginning of a new you, not because you became someone else, but because you finally stopped refusing to become